This is the Troutbitten Podcast.
Troutbitten.
Troutbitten?
Troutbitten.
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 Yeah, Troutbitten.
Troutbitten.
It's about trout. Wild trout. This is Troutbitten.
This is the Troutbitten Podcast, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Dominic Swantowski. I'm the owner of Troutbitten and the author of Troutbitten.com. All right, the Troutbitten guys are here with me, and we're going to do something a little different. In this episode, we'll share a few stories, moments, and experiences from a life on the water. There's no layout here and not much direction other than to share some of the remarkable things that have happened to us while fishing, the things we've seen, places we've been, and the stuff that has happened, simply because we're there, on the river, with a fly rod in hand. Some of this will be about the fish, I'm sure, and some of it will not. So my friend Emmett texted me last week to talk a bit about gear. And after that conversation, here's what he wrote. Emmett said, "The podcast is really good. I think it would be cool too if you had an episode with you guys just telling stories. Troutbitten is so much more than just tips and tactics, and your stories make it different than anything else out there on so many levels." And what Emmett said really hit home for me, because from the beginning, Troutbitten has been exactly what he said, about tactics, sure, but also about the experiences. It's always been a balance between those two things, across all channels, the videos, these podcasts, the website, and social media channels. For me, it's the tactics that keep me interested and motivated to get out there day after day. It's that refinement of technique and the endless problem solving in an ever-changing and shifting game. And sometimes, I catch myself with my head down, tying knots, staring and searching through the surface currents without looking around very much, without breathing deeply and soaking it all in. So it's the things that happen while we're out there, some of the stuff that we'll talk about tonight, that make fly fishing for trout the all-consuming, never-ending pursuit that it is for us. In truth, all of us need to let that happen. It's the choices that we make regarding where we'll fish, when we'll fish, and who we'll fish with. Those elements, those locations, the woods, the water, and the friendships make all of this special. So we'd like to share some of that tonight. All right, then. I'd like to introduce my friends first, and we'll keep this short so we have more time for the stories. But how about each of you quickly telling us about the last trout that you caught? Mine was this morning, early this afternoon, I guess, with a small wild brown trout at the end of my shift. It took a streamer in between a rock and the bank, and it chased a few feet before committing. It was on a sunny day where they took streamers off and on, much better in the morning. They were really slowing down in the afternoon there. So I was kind of happy. I always say, it's fun to end on your own terms. Isn't it fun when you catch a fish? The last thing you do is catch a fish. You go, all right, I'm reeling up. I'm done. Matt Grobe. Matt Grobe. Here's Matt. And what do you have, bud? What's the last fish you caught?
Sunday, the last fish I caught was about a 17-inch rainbow trout. And leading up to it, I was struggling because I was fishing all the wrong water. And I settled down, took a deep breath, started fishing slow holes, and realized just like that, I'm in winter fishing mode. It's 15 degrees out right now in the midst of a snowstorm, and all the fish are starting to get into deep, slow water, and I misjudged that. When I started fishing in the morning, I was fishing, quick water, shallow water, and nope, they're hunkered down in slow, deep water. So, yeah, that was the last fish I caught, and it was a good reminder.
15 degrees.
We
were 70 degrees today. 70 degrees with the sun. I mean, it just felt like. You could feel it baking you.
Yeah.
I was t-shirt. I went down to a t-shirt, and that was it. That was too much almost.
I had icy guides, brother. Icy guides.
No shit. All in the same day. How about Austin Dando? Austin, when was your last fish, bud?
My last fish was about 2 days ago with Willie here.
with Bill Dell. Willie.
Yeah, Bill Dell.
Willie Dell.
Yeah, I caught it on a Jiggles Jiggy in some marginal water.
Jiggles
Was that
Jig,
before or after Was that before or after the beers at the brewery?
That was after for me.
What? After? You went drinking and then you went fishing?
Yeah.
We just had one out. We just
That's
needed some
shocking.
lunch.
We just needed a quick Oktoberfest at the.
That was
local
also
pub.
after daylight savings time.
No, this was before.
No.
Yeah, it was
That
before.
was the day before. You guys are on the ball, though. I don't know. I'm having beers. I'm done.
It's only
Like-
one. One is okay.
Yeah, one's acceptable.
So he ate the CF Jiggy,
That's right.
the Jigless.
Was it?
Jiggles.
I was going to say
Mine.
the
CF
Jiggles
for
version.
craft
Yeah.
fur. Josh and I are doing a video on that real soon.
Good.
CF Streamer. I don't know.
The
Sometimes
jigged version, right?
well, I don't know. I mean, I carry both. I carry 3 different versions of that.
You have to pay him
You wouldn't have to. But-
I actually only carry the jigless version now.
Yeah.
I know.
I've just had more success on it.
Yeah. You wouldn't need to carry all. I mean, my gosh, you certainly don't need to carry all 3 like I do. But hey, you're talking. So here's Josh Darling. And what's the last fish you caught, bud?
It happens to be this afternoon. So I work till 4. My wife starts work at 4:30. So I come home and watch the kids. Today,
Yeah.
I got home and just I walked in the door and the house was a mess. And I said, "Kids, let's go to the park." We live
Grab a
about,
kid.
Yeah, exactly. We live about a 3-minute walk from a Class A wild trout fishery.
It's
so
skinny up there, though, right now. Whew.
it is.
That's skinny.
But it happens that near our house are some really great little spots that
Mhm.
tend to hold fish and no matter what. And
Right.
so we took them down there and they stood on the bank and watched. And my youngest he's only 1, so he just sat there in the stroller and watched. And they all get really excited. They get, they all want to. I'll always get the fish out and let them each touch it and show them how we let it go, and they love it. So we did
That's
that this
the best.
afternoon. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, that is, we all have to kind of recognize that that's a unique skill. I mean, not many people could go up to, I know where you were, into
Mhm.
that water, low and clear,
Mhm.
and kind of almost predictably catch a fish. You know you're going to catch 1 or 2. You
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
really luck into it and catch 10. But that's tough water up there. But I know also that there are some little deeper slots in there, like you say, that always are going to hold willing fish.
There's only a couple that you can pull a stroller right up to, and so you definitely have to be on your
Yeah.
game for sure if
That's
you
a
want to
different-
if you actually want to do it in front of the kids.
Right? That's a different factor to bring
Yep.
in.
Yeah.
Nice, bud. So, hey, here's Trevor Smith, Dr. Trevor Smith.
Thank you.
What's the last life that you saved? Forget the fish. You save anybody's life?
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple good cases in the past month of just picking up on some things that ended up changing the course of someone's life. But
Seriously, yeah.
You save my life every day.
Oh,
I think
that's
what
so sweet.
haunts me is for every one I pick up, I'm sure there's a few that go unnoticed. The body's such a complex thing, and seems like things happen so uniquely and differently in each body that what you were able to predict in one might look totally different in another. So it's kind of what keeps you interested and keeps you learning constantly, but it also haunts you because it's easy to miss stuff.
No kidding. I respect that, right? I mean, really, that's what you do every day. And people may come to you because they have, I don't know, one issue, one problem, one health concern, and then you go, hey, what about this too?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, right.
And we've talked
Yeah.
about that. You know, you enlighten people a little bit, like, hey, you have this trouble.
Right.
You better take care of this. Saving
Yeah.
lives, buddy. I love it.
Yeah, but that was a lot easier than the last trout I caught.
Which was what?
Oh, I don't know. It's been a while. It's
How's
been
it?
the weekend before archery season started. So last weekend in September.
You can't do everything at once.
No, I've laid it aside for now, but it's coming back. Winter fishing's on the horizon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, here's Bill Dell. Last but not least, Mr. Bill. Willie Dell. What's the last? trout you
Bill caught one
Was it-
5 minutes ago.
I was gonna say, was it like 15 minutes ago?
No, I mean, if I would have read the agenda ahead of time, I might have done that. To say I got the most recent fish. But
I got one on the line right now, guys.
I got one.
Yeah.
No, the most recent fish I caught was yesterday on the way home from camp. I stopped at a stream, new access point to it. Just wanted to kind of check it out, and there was a nice run, and it looked pretty good, and I didn't have to put my waders on, so rigged up and just put a stone fly on 1X and caught about a 17, 18-inch fish. And
No, you didn't.
yeah,
Wild or stocked?
wild.
No kidding.
Looked wild. And so I was like, okay, I'm good.
You know you can't catch those on 1X. It has to be 6X.
Yeah. I bought some 8X this weekend. I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm just going to fish nothing but 8X now.
It's impossible on 1X.
It is.
He must be a liar.
It's true. I saw it.
It's a story time, right?
Yeah, it is story time. All right, so let's do it. Way back in season 1, almost a year ago, maybe an actual year ago, we did a podcast that we called Freewheelin. It was a little Bob Dylan reference.
Hey, now.
The Freewheelin Troutbitten, we call it, where we kind of just hit record and let it roll. And this is pretty similar, with the only direction tonight to kind of stay away from the tactics, because we do a lot of that, and that's great too. But let us not talk tactics tonight. Let's talk about the other things. Talk about the experiences, things that have happened to us. What do you have, guys? What do you want to share? Where do you want to start?
I'll say one of my most fun experiences was spending 2 weeks in Montana, sleeping in Grobe's house 5 or 6 years ago. I came out. And
What's that like?
It's been
Whoa.
5 or 6 years already.
Does
Yeah,
he tap
I
you
know.
on the shoulder at like 3 a.m.?
I was working.
He was
Right.
working. We were just fishing.
Mm-hmm.
That was that was pretty cool.
It was a
He's a
good
good
time.
host.
We just
Makes
in
good
life,
spaghetti.
you guys with kids will appreciate this, right? In life, there's not many. Like my wife had to go back to Pennsylvania
Mm-hmm.
to go to 2 weddings, and there was like a week in between, and it just so happened that's when Bill and Greg decided to come out. I mean, they just hung out at my house for 2 weeks. I had to go to work, but I fished with them plenty, and it was just three dudes fishing for 2 weeks. I mean,
It was. And,
That's awesome.
and we did everything possibly could. I think everything you could possibly do wrong with a drift boat. I think we did it.
With Matt's drift boat?
This was with the legend.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, let's see.
Go ahead, Bill.
Beforehand, I was like, hey, I'm like, Greg's never floated Yellowstone. You think we could float the Yellowstone? He goes, I don't know. I'll see if I can get a drift boat.
Mm.
So we showed up and he's like, hey, I got a drift boat, but he's like, this guy says I can use it as long as, he's like, he doesn't even care if we sink it. And I was like, well, that might be a good thing.
What the hell? I don't care if you sink my boat. Who says that?
This thing was a little old.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a guy that left Montana for the summer and hopes that I'd sink his boat and buy him a new one.
Sounds like Hank Patterson.
Yeah, pretty much.
It started out, I think the first day we put in, and Matt goes, hey, do you know how to back in a trailer? And I'm like, well, kinda. I've done it a little bit. And this is like a blind back in, and there's like 100 kayakers, and I tried it, I don't know, a handful of times, and finally a nice gentleman walked by and he said, hey, do you want me to back that down the ramp for you? And I said, yes,
No, he
please. Here's the key. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. I was hurting pretty bad.
If there's
And
ever
so it's
one
come
thing
to
that
this.
makes you feel really dumb in Montana,
Oh, right.
it's if you
Right.
can't back a drift boat into the, because there's so many there's so many accesses out here, right? It's like
Right.
based around drift boat fishing.
It's your man card.
Yeah, and I didn't even mess with it. And Dell gets in there, and I see him, and then this poor dude's just watching us, and he's like, hey, pal, get the hell out of there. Let me back your boat in.
Yeah.
Other people want to fish.
Yeah. I'll take care of this.
So we float and we're on the way back to the ramp, and Matt was not accustomed to driving a boat and understanding the wide turns you have to make. And so coming back around, he hit a cattle guard and blew the flat tire on the trailer.
No.
Yeah,
And
damn cattle guard. And luckily, didn't we call my buddy up and ended up drinking like Pabst Blue Ribbon on the road?
yeah, I think the spare was like, and I don't know, it hadn't been filled up since 1965. And so this thing was hurting pretty bad.
Right.
We unhooked the boat and put the spare in and drove there's not a gas station every 10 miles in Montana. And so I think we drive 35, 40 minutes to go put air in this tire and then back.
Yep. It was a long night. And then to fast forward the next day, we got everything right that we screwed up the day before, except we didn't put the plugs in, and we were 5 boat lengths away from the put in,
White water.
and just water is just gurgling up through the back of the boat.
Whoops.
Precision Fly and Tackle is a family-owned business with a passion for the outdoors and a sense of adventure. They are anglers who enjoy every moment spent on the water with family and friends. Precision Fly and Tackle carries the widest selection of Euro rods, reels, lines, leaders, flies, and accessories. From the beginner to the advanced angler, Precision Fly and Tackle can outfit every angler, no matter the budget. Visit them online at precisionflyandtackle.com. Then use code Troutbitten10, that's the number 10, for 10% off your order. Gear up with Precision Fly and Tackle for your next adventure. Whether it's after a fishing trip or at a backyard fire, you can bet the Troutbitten crew has a case of New Trail Broken Heels along with us. It's honestly our favorite beer. This hazy IPA is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is a keeper. New Trail beer is proudly brewed in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and delivered cold to your favorite craft beer retailer every week. At New Trail, it's not about being the best angler. It's about getting out there. So enjoy nature's moments and reward yourself for a day well fished with New Trail Broken Heels. It's Troutbitten's favorite beer.
Now, what about the day Sloop joined you? Isn't this the same venture?
The day Sloop almost drowned us?
Near-death experience?
That-
I wanted to hear about that.
That was a different experience.
That was, I'll jump in on that one. We're just going to get into, so Pat came out, our good friend Pat, and brought his son,
Logan.
And they were bouncing around between my house and Sloop's house. And so the same boat, right? The legend. We had Logan and Pat and Sloop. And, you know, I'm relatively new to the whole drift boat world, right? I rode an Otter 130 back in PA, which is a big raft. You can get away with sloppy rowing and whatnot. And Sloop.
Just bounce off.
You know, and hopefully Sloop won't listen to this because I think he was pretty shook up on the whole situation. But Sloop decides he wants to get in and row on the mighty Yellowstone. And for anyone that hasn't floated that river, it's gnarly. I mean, it's all warrants all respect.
It's the only river I've been on that I was extremely intimidated by. It was like you're hitting white caps that are like 5 and 6 feet high, and it's like keep it straight or you're rolling.
And it eats people every year, and it sinks boats every year, and so I probably had one too many broken heels. Which wasn't broken heels, but I had a good buzz and Pat had a good buzz and we were catching fish on the streamer. And hell, Sloop, you want to row? Why not? So
Impaired judgment.
So
yes.
So I'm all excited, right? Because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna throw this headbanger sculpin and outfish Logan and Pat. And so I start stripping streamers. And before you know it, I look down. And we're going right into a strainer. I mean, we're like 3 boat lengths away from this gnarly strainer of trees and all kinds of stuff. And for anybody that I mean, Sloop's talking like we're having a finance conversation, and he's just he's just talking, you know, like nothing's wrong. So I look at him, I say, Sloop, are you going to start back rowing?
Back row, baby.
And he starts back rowing. Well, the boat ain't moving. So I literally chuck Sloop out of the rower's seat and start hammering on the oars, right? And Pat literally like is pushing the tree away from the boat. Logan's hanging onto Pat's leg, and somehow we like do a 360 out of the strainer without losing the entire boat and all my gear. And I never let Sloop row again, and he lives here now.
Sorry, Sloop.
Sorry, Sloop.
That's a good rower.
I became a good rower by default.
You're probably the best of all of us. But boating is fun, man. It's like its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's different than fishing. It's like its own thing.
Is.
And as much as I love fishing by myself, I think the coolest thing about boating, well, you're not by yourself. You're at least you're with at least one dude.
Yeah.
And I've floated with all you guys, and that's the very special thing.
It is.
I think about floating. You're 10 feet from each other at the most.
Sure.
And
Usually closer than that.
it's kind of a team. It's a
And
team effort.
Right on. It's
Because
teamwork.
if
man.
the guy rowing is doing donuts, you ain't catching anything.
Sure. No, it's fun.
I tried teaching my dad to row, and we only ever floated once or twice, and he never got the hang of it. I'm like, that's all right, Dad. I'll just row you. I'll just row you all day.
Sure.
But you want somebody who, you want to trade off. What we usually do is, every time somebody catches a decent fish, switch it, right?
Yeah.
Sure. You don't catch from my experience with the drift boat, you don't catch as many fish as you do wading, and you kind of have to set that expectation a little different, right?
Well, you're only fishing half the time.
Sure.
Well, if there's two guys, right? You're fishing half the time. But that's one thing. And then the other is, for me, I take that opportunity of boating and being on a boat, drifting, to fish streamers. And I just love, we're gonna cover 10, 12, 15 miles, maybe more in a day. I'm like, great. I'm going to just bang, 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 hit the banks. And you guys are all really good on the oars. And I'm like, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I'll often just stick with it. I nymph plenty. I don't need a nymph from a boat.
Yeah.
I do. But I love that. So that's why I know that I'm probably going to catch fewer too.
That visual aspect's cool too, because you're up above the water, as
point.
opposed to
so
in the
high,
water.
yeah.
So you get to see the eat a lot of times.
It's definitely a cool camaraderie experience that you don't get as much wade fishing unless you're in the sweetheart hole, and then you kind of have that same experience
where you're holding hands.
Yeah.
And you get to heckle the shit out of the guy, at the front of the boat.
Oh,
Especially
right.
if you're Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill, how
Come
cool
on, I
was
put
it?
you right in the spot, and you can't even.
And I'll just, if you're
Hit
not
the
catching
bank.
fish, I'm giving it to you.
That's right.
Like Greg and I just picked on Austin the whole entire float. He turned it on and started catching fish, so we had to kind of calm him
Austin
down
did.
a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Come on. Once in a while, you give a guy credit.
Once in a while.
Hey, I want to tack on another Montana story while we're at it.
Yeah.
So in 2017, summer of 2017, I was out living in Missoula, Montana.
Yeah.
And I spent some summers out there, and it was coming down to my last day in Montana. I was going to drive home back to Pennsylvania the next day, and I'd struggled to catch anything of real decent size of brown trout that summer. Where I was located in Missoula, it seemed like I could catch rainbows and cutthroat, lots of whitefish, but the brown trout eluded me, and it was kind of my last chance. And I was fishing with these two guys I never met before. We kind of just linked up, and end of the night, I actually ended up catching the biggest trout of the year. And we left the river at about 9:30 at night, and we decided, well, let's go get some food and some drinks, whatever, it's close by. So we drove into the nearest town, and we stopped at this bar. And Grove, you've probably been there. Other Montana listeners, you may know this, but it's called Chickies Bar.
Chickies.
There's nothing in the town except the bar.
Nothing
and
good
hardware.
comes from Chickies, bud.
in a gas station, right?
Were people clothed at this bar?
Mostly. So we go inside, and we were all right. Let's order some food, right? So the kitchen closes at 9, so there's no food available. But after 9, they make you DiGiorno pizzas in the microwave.
No, they
So that,
don't.
all right, we're gonna order a few DiGiornos,
In the
order some beers,
microwave.
and we're gonna go out on the porch and wait for our DiGiornos to be done.
Wow.
So we go out on the porch, and there's these other folks out there, kind of in a huddle around the far corner of the deck, and you can tell they're doing some different things. And one of them emerges from the group and comes over to us and says, "Hey, fish hippies," and we're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, buddy."
Yes.
And he says,
I answer to that.
"You guys want to try some tractor fuel?" We look at each other and we're like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So this
That's
guy,
not what you say.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
This guy reaches into his breast pocket and he pulls out this flask, and it's in the shape of a gas can. And he goes, "Now I want each of you guys to take a sip of this and guess what proof it is, or what percent alcohol this is." He made it himself.
Yeah.
And each one of us takes a sip. It's awful. It's awful. It's awful. And we're all guessing. We're all wrong. And he's, what you guys just drank was, 180 proof or whatever. That's 95% alcohol. Like, oh my God. So, one day I was drinking this stuff, fell asleep one day building a barn, woke up the next day, I was paralyzed. But he literally called it tractor fuel because he ran his tractor off of it, allegedly. But that was my experience in Montana after catching the biggest.
Fueled his tractor with.
That's what his claim was. He said he could put in his tractor and run it.
There you go.
But that's my story from Chickie's Bar after my largest Montana trout.
I'll tell him you said I.
Somewhere on a Troutbitten article, Austin, is your picture there with those two guys you're talking about. Maybe the next day or the day before.
Yeah, well, that's the same day. Just
right,
a big, good full day.
Okay, and you ended up catching a really nice trout then.
Yeah, and it was a shame because right before that, I just lost another really large trout, and it was like a last ditch effort. We were about to leave, and I just decided to go back down, and it all kind of connected at once. It was really cool.
That is neat.
Bill, how cold was it when we fished? We floated last year.
Ooh.
It was 10 degrees warmer than the day we floated the next day with Greg and Austin.
Nice.
That was pretty bad.
I think the high the day we fished was 20 degrees. And I don't know what it was when we started, but Bill brought his camp stove. And what kind of fuel?
Yeah.
Butane.
And so Bill was real excited because he brought these bison burgers. And we had a decent morning. We caught some fish, but I was looking forward to these bison burgers all day. And we we pull off and we try to light the stove, and we try to light it, and we try to light it, and we try to light it. This butane was frozen solid.
No way.
And we got a spark out of it or two. So Bill puts it down his pants and we start running it and jumping in circles. I don't know why I was doing it. I think just to get warm.
That's good.
My feet were totally numb from just standing in the boat.
We danced in circles for about a half hour with butane down Bill's pants. And we finally lit the stove up enough to, I don't know if you even got the meat brown all the way on the edges, but that was a patty of bleeding buffalo burger that would just drip blood down your face as we ate it. And we tried to make ourselves believe it was good, but it was pretty rough.
Did you bring the, what's that called? Love rub. You have
Love rub.
Dr. Wool there has a, it's a
special dry rub.
What's it called?
It's good stuff. It's love rub.
Rub with love.
Rub with love. That's what,
you'll
that's
find
what the
it on
label
Amazon.
says. Yeah.
Yeah, they can sponsor us. That'd be great.
Well, Trevor and I went on a float to one of our favorites. And that was fall time, right? And anyway, you brought ribeye. Was it ribeye?
It was ribeye.
It was a high quality cut of meat, and there were a couple nice steaks.
Oh,
and I said, and they were thick and big, and I said, well, let's cut them up, right? So you sliced them up,
into strips,
into strips, so they cook a little bit quicker.
Ooh.
But man, you loaded them up with the love rub.
Oh, rub with love.
Gosh. And then we had enough fuel and warmth to get them cooked up just perfect. And
that was a good day.
Good stuff.
That's the best part about floating is the food.
Often, right? I've always said that. Pat used to give me shit because I was like, well, let's bring the grill. He's like, it just takes time. I'm like, I know, but it's good time. It's like, Austin, you're the type too that'll.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, lunch matters.
Last time we floated with Burke last winter for muskie, we brought the grill, but we didn't even stop fishing while we ate.
Right.
I swear those brats were cold.
Yeah, he'll be like, they're cooked. Just get them out of the package and eat them.
I fished with him one time and I just cooked in his boat like that. I just cooked.
Yeah, that's what we did.
He's like, I don't want to stop. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna cook brats in the back. You can fish out the front.
Well, when Trevor said that you brought a stove, I was thinking you meant that you were using it as warmth, because in a drift boat sometimes people will use propane and like a heater. And
that'd be nice.
I thought that's what you were saying.
That would have been.
No,
nice.
you're just talking about lunch.
They're just like a little. It's basically a butane hot plate, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely done that. I have like a jet boil. You all know what a jet boil is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you just use the igniter for that, you can like pretty easily get a fire going. And
sure,
I fell in the middle of winter at one of our favorite rivers, pretty far out, like at least a mile from my car and many, many miles from anything else. And it was real cold. It had to be, it had to be low 20s that day.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially what happened was I had like gotten snagged up in a spot, and I was trying to cross, and I had fallen in, and so I fell in, and I went back and tried to get a fire started with my lighter, and I could not get it for the life of me. Like I had like gathered all the sticks together, and I tried to get a fire started. I couldn't get it, so I got the butane lighter out from the jet boil, got it going, and I'm sitting there legitimately in my underwear because honestly, because like everything was soaked. I had gone completely under, water down the waders and everything. And so I'm sitting there in my underwear, like on the bank of the river, next to this tiny little fire that I had started with my jet boil, eating soup. Yeah.
Austin, do you still carry
one of the finer moments?
Coffee in the wintertime, in the winter?
You mean like just the grounds or hot coffee already made?
No, I mean like you can make coffee on the river. I've seen you do that a couple times in the wintertime.
Yeah, I used to do that more than I do now, I think. But yeah, once in a while, I'll like Josh said, I'll bring the meal out. I won't bring the jet boil often. I'll just make a small fire. But yeah, the cowboy coffee.
Yeah, you made me one last year.
Oh, that's
Isn't
right.
that
We
cool?
made
Yeah, it's fantastic.
we made parking lot coffee last year in the
I
dark.
just think
we
that,
did.
that's what we're talking about. I mean, we remember that more than the fish.
There you go. That was a good
I remember
morning.
I don't remember how the fishing was that day. You built a fire on an island. I got a picture of that too.
Yeah.
One of the first times you and I fished, I'm like, I smell smoke.
That's
I
right.
thought somebody had a campfire.
That's right.
Was burning.
It was a little slow that day. I had to change my morale.
Yeah. And that's what I remember from that trip. It's like,
I think
That was fun.
Austin's cool, man. He built a fire.
fishing trips and stuff, I remember more the entertaining things, like hanging out
Yeah.
with friends and, you catch fish, but I don't know. It's a bonding experience. It's fun and entertaining, or we wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah. I got a good one of when I'm listening to Bill talk like that. I think I had a ton of good experiences with my dad, and my dad's no longer with us, and I had so many memories of my childhood into my teens and early 20s and early 30s. Fishing with, we didn't go on big family vacations. So me, my dad, and my brothers would religiously travel to Central PA during the month of May and camp. I mean, that was kind of our big, 7 to 10 day vacation. And we did it for years. I mean, as long as I can remember. And you guys will appreciate this because anyone trying to plan a trip, to hit a specific hatch in May,
Right.
it's tough. And, in the early part of our trips, we camped, and can't tell you how many times we got, just completely
wet.
soaked.
Right.
And then at some point, my brother got a camper, and that changed the game. And so that was a little bit more comfortable. And long story short, we hit my personal favorite hatch is the Hendrickson. And
Nice.
we hit it one year, and we hit it the right water level, the right conditions, the right pressure, the right bugs, and it was just lights out, right? And that didn't always happen. You had to earn that. We always joked, right? You had to put your time in. You had to wait out some of the soakers, and it was such a good hatch that it was one of those hatches that somehow, when you were catching so many fish, you realized you were overdue on a piss by like 2.5 hours. Right. Or you were like just so hungry, you didn't realize how freaking hungry you were. And so my dad was there, I'm there, my brothers are there. We're all catching just fish until we just, the hunger just overtook us. And so I remember walking back to the truck. My brother piles in, we all pile in, and there was room in the back, for everybody. Well, my dad just hops in the back of the pickup truck in the bed, and we were like, what the hell is he doing? It's pretty, it's pretty cold out. And he's like, no, just go. So we're driving back to the camper, and my dad's in the back, right? Like your pet dog with its head out the back door. And we're just like, what the hell is he doing? Why'd he jump in the back? And so we all pile in the camper.
Good.
And, we're all just like on cloud nine. It was such a good time. And we all sit down for lunch. And my dad he still didn't come into the camper. Well, that we see him walking to the bathroom. Well, on the back of his waders, he missed. He went out on the bank in number 2 and missed. Never said a word and fished straight through that epic hatch.
Whoa.
And we all looked at each other and said, damn, I had to piss. But Dad, I mean, he was waiting for that hatch longer than I did.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
He got himself cleaned up, though.
It's amazing.
And
I'm
we went back
sure.
out for the
Yep.
spinner fall.
There you go.
Nice.
I liked that he never said anything. He wasn't going to make a deal of it.
No.
He didn't. And I don't know if he would ever said anything if we didn't get that visual as he was
Right.
walking away.
Yep.
That's so good.
As fly anglers and tires, we understand the value of having the right tool for the job. AvidMax.com offers over 20,000 products and the knowledge to help find the right tools for your job, whether that be at the tying bench or on the water. Listeners of the Troutbitten podcast receive a discount at AvidMax.com. Enter the code TROUT10, that's the number 10, at checkout to save 10% on your order. Orders over $25 ship for free, so you can put more gas in your tank or beer in your cooler. For all things fly fishing and tying, elevate your game with AvidMax. For over a decade, Smith Creek has provided innovative, high-quality fly fishing accessories designed to put your gear in easy reach, free up your hands, and keep our waters clean. This November, Smith Creek is releasing 2 new products just in time for the holidays. Check their website to see the new tippet holder. Each unit is individually machined from high-quality billet aluminum and anodized in one of 2 eye-catching colors. They hold up to 5 tippet spools with a patented spring-loaded plunger design that is easy to load and keeps your spools right where you need them. All Smith Creek products are built guide tough and backed by solid customer service. To learn more about Smith Creek products, visit their website at smithcreek.co. Those memories with my dad. I mean, I'm lucky enough my dad's still here and we're camping and we've been doing it for over 20 years. He's had, I think he's on a 3rd or 4th camper. I can remember the first trip. So my dad always had a 2-wheel drive pickup. When I was growing up, he had 2-wheel drive pickups instead of 4-wheel drive. Okay. And then he put sandbags in the back so that you'd have traction, right? You understand this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Over the wheel wells, right?
Yep. No fishtail.
Right. It was fine. And so then he got a camper. And I remember, and I was young, well, maybe 18, 19, 20 years old. I remember I was in college when my dad gets his first camper. And I remember saying, like, you're going to be able to pull that with 4-wheel drive. He's like, Dom, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the engine is what's going to pull it, not 2-wheel drive versus 4-wheel drive. I'm like, okay. My dad is really the type that I've always trusted. Like, he has good advice. He's thought things through. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to second guess him. So we went up north of here. It must have been maybe around this time because, okay, we're camping and fishing and things are going well. We're having fun. And then overnight we get, it was cold. We actually ran out of propane trying to keep the furnace. This is a camper that has like the tent sides, you know what I mean? Like a pop-up camper, like you crank it up. You guys familiar with that? Right on. I mean, we ran out of fuel and overnight we're like, wow, okay. Okay. We're warm enough. We get up. We got to get out of here. It's like 3 inches of snow maybe, which isn't too much, but there's more coming down. And I'm just saying, like, Dad with that 2-wheel drive, trying to get out of there, just trying to get out of just the camping spot. And this is not a campground, by the way. This is like what PA calls like primitive camping. You can get a permit. You just got to basically register that, hey, I'm up in Site 178 in Bald Eagle State Forest.
If I don't come back, you know where to find me.
Right. Or if I start a forest fire, you have my name and driver's license. But anyway, we get down, we're trying to get down out of there. And I just remember my dad, I'm in the passenger seat and I'm kind of looking over at him and he looked a lot more nervous than maybe I've ever seen him behind the wheel. And I'm going to say like a month later, he ended up getting a Dodge Dakota, I think it was, but he got a 4-wheel drive. And he's like, if we're going to do this camping thing anymore, he was on a 4-wheel drive and he's been on a 4-wheel drive ever since. Whatever. It's those memories. And we were fishing mostly brook trout streams on that trip. My dog was with us. It was Good times, man. Good times. But those are good things. Those are good
They
things.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll speak to one with my bro. First time I ever went out west.
Do it.
Senior year, high school. It was my graduation present. And my brother had lived out in Colorado for a couple years and then moved home. And then it was midway through the summer. We drove out west, which Dom, you've done it. I mean, that's an experience all on its own. I said that's
The driving itself. Absolutely.
Yep, I tell everybody, I mean, it's something everybody should do once, I think, is travel the country and drive out west. And if you have the time, and I don't know, there's something to be said about that experience.
Yeah.
And so when you're driving out west from Pennsylvania, you're packing everything. I mean, that's a lot of stuff, especially when you're fishing. And so we packed everything we had into his Dodge Dakota, and then had a cap in the back over the bed. And that's where we slept, and our destination was the San Juan River, and we were there for a couple days. And at that time, there's an incredible blue wing olive hatch on that river, and so you can pretty much time it, right around 11. You go out to the stream, and you're pretty guaranteed you're going to get heads rising. And so we fished, had this insane day, just really, really good dry fly fishing, and got back to the parking lot, and someone robbed us.
No.
Of what?
Yep.
Wow.
Everything.
Everything?
I mean, my
Oh,
brother,
God.
I'd never seen my brother break down like he broke down, because they stole almost 5,000 flies.
Oh,
Like all right when mixed CDs were a thing, where you put mix tape, mix this, mix that.
yeah.
Oh,
Those
no.
are personal things. Yeah.
Our everything. So we had, luckily we had this stuff on ourselves from fishing, right? So we had our fly boxes. So we had enough to salvage the trip. And so we made the best of it. And then on the way out, we reported it, obviously, to the Navajo, I don't know, it was a Park Service maybe, or National Forest Service, one of those agencies and whatever. So we get back to PA. We, at that point, my brother replaced everything, and a year later we got a call, and they caught the people that stole our stuff.
Gosh.
And found all our stuff and shipped it back. And the only thing that was
No way.
Jeez,
all
that's
his
wild.
flies, everything.
Get out.
And the only thing they did was they crossed out, instead of it saying like Matt's mix, it said like Tanya's mix.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh,
of all the
goodness.
things they could have done, they just changed the mixtape words.
What kind
Mostly
of people?
They must have liked my music. They like my music.
Oh
man.
my gosh.
Nirvana, Blink 182, G Love.
Were they
That's
prosecuted?
all it was.
That's all it was.
Yeah, it was. They broke into numerous. Like they were.
bet they
were
did.
breaking into all kinds of cars there.
Yeah.
And drugs were a thing, and they ended up getting into a lot of trouble. But they ruined. What did they?
yeah.
They ruined a trip. That we had been planning forever, right? And we still made the best of it. But like I said, that was a trip gone bad. As worse as you could want, right?
Yeah, man.
Losing all your fishing stuff.
How was the olive hatch?
It was great. I mean, that olive hatch, it was really good. But there was definitely a little, it's hard to enjoy stuff after that, right? When
Yeah.
you got to drive all the way back across country with, they even stole your dirty underwear. That sucks.
Oh my gosh! Come on, man.
They stole my dirty underwear, dude. I didn't get those back.
Come on, man.
Tanya still has those.
Tanya's.
Tanya.
My family and I made a trip kind of like that. Like
Go ahead.
my senior year of high school, we made a trip kind of like that, where we drove up through like South Dakota. We drove all the way out west into Washington State. It was like the Spokane River and that area, and then down and back through Colorado. And we took like a month and did that. And so we stopped in Yellowstone for a while. We stopped in Colorado for a while, and we fished everywhere we could. But maybe the most memorable thing about that was, and you mentioned this, Matt, about how the drive is something in itself. One of the most memorable things, one of the only things I really remember about that trip is how many times we had to stop and change tires because we blew tires constantly on the trailer that we brought out. So we brought out this old trailer with us, just like pulling it behind the truck. It really, I mean, like it had to be every few days over the course of this month-long excursion that we were like pulling over on the side of the highway and changing the tires to this thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I honestly think it's like more memorable than the fishing.
And you don't know where you're stopping.
Exactly.
You don't know where you're stopping. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into that.
Am I the only one here that fishes with a dog? Have you guys ever had a fishing dog?
No.
Not the way that you have. I've definitely brought our dog fishing, but not nearly the way that you do.
Right. This is my second fishing dog. His name's River. He's an Australian Shepherd. My other fishing dog lived to be 14 years old. His name was Bob Dylan, and he was a border collie. He was more of what I'm learning about River is that, well, Dylan he had a higher motor. Dylan wouldn't stop. Dylan never got too cold, didn't get tired. I saw him fall asleep outside maybe 3 or 4 times in his life. If he was outside, he was on guard. He thought it was his job. He took it upon himself to like just watch over us. Me, my dad would fish with us sometimes. And it was different that way than River. River's like, you got it. I'm going to fall asleep over here. And then, well, last winter, I remember River going and just he was clearly uncomfortable on those coldest days. Now I'm hoping and he had more fur than Dylan did too. So I'm like, come on, man. But I will say, if you have the right dog, it really changes the experience. And as we were talking about, doing this podcast, this topic, I was thinking about my dad and I was thinking about my dog. As much as I love fishing by myself, there might be nothing better than just fishing with my dog. And I have the same connection now that I did with Dylan. They're different dogs, and that's all right. But there's something really special about that. I don't know. One of the best memories I have with Dylan, that dog changed my life. He made me. He gave me the chance, I would say, to be responsible. I was young. I got him when I was 22 or 23 or something like that. Kind of I quit school the first time, and then I was kind of just a little lost in life, and just getting Dylan, and I wanted to train him the right way. And that process of training him, and it was just me and him. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina for 10 months. It helped me grow up. And from that point on, I was just more responsible. I kind of grew into being an adult for the first time.
That's cool.
I think so anyway. But one of the coolest memories I have with Dylan is March, when I realized that you had this blue-winged olive hatch. I was upstream in the canyon of one of our favorites. And I just remember I would talk to him a lot when I was out there. It was just me and him. And I was nymphing, and these blue-winged olives started. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I want to fish dry flies. And there was snow coming down, and not just small snowflakes, but like thick snowflakes. But mixed in with those snowflakes were blue-winged olives. It was a hatch. And it was the first one I'd seen all year. This is when I was fishing 5 days a week, and I was on the water every day. And that's the first hatch I'd seen all year. And it was probably the first hatch those brown trout had seen that year. And they didn't care if it was a dead drift. We say around here all the time, it's got to be a dead drift, or they didn't care that day. Once it got on the water,
that's fun.
It was fun. And so I was counting out loud, and I would say, Dylan, that's 15. There's 16, Dylan. And I swear to God, I got up to 50 fish. And then I went, okay. And then I quit.
Wow.
Went home. And Dylan I said he would always kind of keep watch on the bank. He was up on the bank. I could tell you right where we were. And he was just kind of on this path, just doing back and forth. And then he crossed over, and then he was in the woods on the other side. And just kind of every time I'd say the number, there's 27, Dylan. It was just me and him. And I'm like yelling at the top of my lungs, like, there's 32. It was so much fun. It's one of my best fishing memories ever, and it's with a dog, and anyway, 50 fish and walked out of there. I was like, okay, that's it. And I
pretty cool.
You know, I probably could have kept
That is-
going,
yeah.
and
That's neat.
it was cool. And you know what? Every time I go past that spot, or of course, every time I fish through there, I always think about it. That's, I think, the coolest thing about fishing memories is they do not go away. It could even just be a mediocre kind of memory. Oh, I remember I fished with my buddy over here and nothing really happened, and we had a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
you still remember it.
Dom, is that you have that song you wrote, Walking Bob Dylan? Is that the same song that kind of, it mentions all the numbers as you move upstream? That when you tell that story, it reminds me of, you know, you calling out to the dog and all the numbers that are involved in Walking Bob Dylan, the tune that you wrote.
Yeah. The numbers song is about the cicada hatch.
Oh, never mind.
That called that one
that.
17 years.
That's what it is. Yeah, Walking Bob Dylan, good song.
But Walking Bob Dylan is a good song, I think. And that was about him and all the experiences. Really. And as I go through the lyrics of that song, there's always
That's right.
these visuals in my head of like, oh, that day.
Yeah, and you have all
That
the
day,
references
the next-
to other Dylan
Yeah.
songs, and they're
Right.
really cleverly done.
Thanks. I enjoyed that song.
Cool.
I feel like one of the best fishing days I've had with you guys is with Austin, and when he came back for his bachelor party, and
Oh, good memory.
you were in North Carolina for what, I think, a year and a half, 2 years, and you come back.
Yeah, by that time.
Like, okay, I'm like, well, let's go fish a spot. I think we'll do good. And, you know, I was thinking, maybe I'd get him into like a 16, 17 inch fish. And so
Playing bartender.
playing bartender. And so we started
Hottest day
out.
of the summer, practically.
It was 95. And
Yeah.
I was just like, man, this is going to suck. But, you know, hey, let's try to fish for a little bit in the morning.
July.
I remember this
And-
day. I was
Yep.
like taking pictures of your rings while you were out fishing.
And it was lights out.
Yeah.
I was just like, you fish, you know, you live in North Carolina now. I'll just kind of hang out and watch you fish for a little bit. I get to fish just whenever I want. And so I think you caught like 10 fish within like the first 40 minutes, and you caught like the 8th or 10th fish, I think, was like a 19-inch brown. And I was like, damn, that's a good fish.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one I've seen.
Right.
Then the next bucket, you caught a couple nice ones, and then you caught another 18, and I was like, dang.
Yeah.
So we just kept fishing, and it was good all day until we were just like, okay, we were good. And I bet you we caught, I don't know, 6 or 8 fish. You know, after he caught, you know, the second 18, I was like, okay, I'm going to catch a fish or two.
I got to get a rod in my
I got-
hand.
You know?
That's right.
Was that the day before your wedding, or was that the day of your
that was
wedding?
the day before, same night as the
day
bachelor
before.
party.
Okay.
Bill,
Yeah.
I don't know what made that, I mean, other than just the timing of things in life, I don't know what made the fishing so good. Because
was the
there was
worst
nothing you
conditions
could
you could
point at
have.
and say, yeah, all right, well, you know, cloud cover. No. Bright sunny skies. warm,
Sometimes you put
not-
your time in.
or not very high water. Yeah. Some days they give you one.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you came with a horseshoe up your ass from North Carolina or something. I don't know. It was a damn
Like
good
Matt
day.
said, man, you put your time in, you're
Yeah.
going to hit it. And sometimes it's like the stars align and you hit it on those special days too, with good friends and in a good situation.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, that
cool.
was special.
Gotta
It's
earn
fun.
it. Gotta earn it.
Right.
Most-
You're not
most
going to
of
go
the
out
time.
10 times a year and have anything like that ever happen to you, probably.
I remember getting pictures from that day and being like, wait, what? Because I knew where you guys were fishing,
Yeah,
and I knew
right.
the conditions of that day, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it had no logic.
I was lucky
Yeah.
enough to fish the very next morning as well, the day of my wedding.
And that's right.
I woke
That's
up
what I'm
and
thinking
went
of.
fishing for a little while, came back and
Yeah, that's crazy right there.
went back even with, took some friends back and went swimming in the local creek before we decided to get dressed and head over to the church and do the
Yeah,
thing. So
not too many people do that on their wedding day.
yeah, it was great.
Were you on
Very low
tractor fuel?
Yeah.
Right on.
And I'll tell you what, Austin and his friends stayed at my camp, and I think
Yeah.
there were 10, I don't know, it was the most people I've ever had
Oh,
sleep
wow,
at my
yeah.
camp. And there was
Yeah,
like
that's
10,
tight.
12.
That'd be
yeah.
tight.
And it
Good
was
time.
it was hot, and yeah, they were the
Yeah,
they
Bill
were the-
bought a air
bought an
conditioner
air
the same day.
I was like, I
What?
need an air conditioner. Yeah.
I need
There's
air
no
conditioning.
electricity though.
There's it runs on
Oh yeah,
the-
generator out there.
Yeah, the generator. So I fired
Right
up
on.
the generator,
Yeah.
and
He's a great host.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, man, I'm like,
Yeah, he is.
they were the quietest group of people that you would
Yeah.
think, 10, 12 men on a bachelor party would be like
Right.
crazy and loud. And they were just like, sitting on the porch playing acoustic guitar for a little while, and that was it's about as rowdy as it got.
That was nice.
They were gentlemen.
Nice.
Gentlemen.
That's right.
Yeah. Those are Austin's friends.
Gentlemen only.
Gentlemen Club.
I don't know. I hang out with you people, but
Yeah. Right.
Had some good trout-bitten fires over the past year.
I know.
It's becoming a nice tradition.
It's over at your place.
I feel left out.
Yeah. Grove, you got to come out.
I know. We'll Skype
can you
you
guys-
in or something.
Can you, FaceTime me or Skype me? in?
FaceTime you in for sure.
There you go. We might see each other on the Saints game.
That's right, baby.
Steelers Saints.
We're going to
No
have
kidding.
a broken heels tailgate, Troutbitten style.
There you go.
There you go. There
When are you
go.
coming back, Matt? Are we going to get our pizza?
Yeah, we'll probably get our pizza. I'll need to get out of Uniontown. I think the subtle message I'm listening to everybody talk, it's like if you could tell your 19-year-old eager self when you're after numbers and big fish, try to make yourself take that step back and embrace all the people. You know, it's hard to find
nice.
good fishing buddies, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh, yeah.
True.
whether it's family or friends, and I think we all can get caught up in being intense and in the sport and whatnot. But boy, what really lasts, like you said, Dom, is the memories of the people and the camaraderie and the companionship. And I think that's a subtle message in tonight's podcast, is to take a step back and embrace that when you have the chance as much as you can, because you never know. Take it from me, you never know when that'll go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the companionships, the friendships. It's also sometimes, for me anyway, what the river just does for me personally. When we had Joey, our oldest son, I went 6 weeks without fishing. And that's the longest that I had gone for, I don't know, in memory of not fishing at all. And I remember my wife, Becky, saying, like, you go fishing. I'm like, nah, I did, because I don't want to just go for a couple hours. I want to get out there. Well, you could go. So I waited 6 weeks. I finally went, and I went to my favorite spot, and I went out there. And I remember I just sat there multiple times throughout the day. I sat. It was not about the fishing. I hardly cared about the fishing. I don't remember. I'm going to say I caught a dozen fish. I don't know, 6 fish. I don't know, because that's not what it was about. It was something I needed more than anything. And just to sit there and nobody else was around. I did have my dog with me, and it kind of healed me. It kind of just gave me that peace, that it put me back together in a way. You guys who have kids know when you have that first kid, everything gets just shaken up. I remember being in the hospital, and then, I don't know, Becky needed a few things. I went to Walmart. We'd been in the hospital for like 2 days, and all of a sudden I'm gone to Walmart. I'm like, oh my gosh, the real world is in front of me. This feels so strange. Seriously.
You do kind of go, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a,
You know what I mean? You
it's a
do
different
know.
world when you're in there. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Everybody
that-
you look at, you're like, do you know what's happened to me?
Right.
Is it as apparent to me as it is to you?
And you're wondering
how different
too,
everything is?
right?
Yeah.
You're wondering too, have you been through this?
Yeah.
Are you going
Yep.
through this right now? It was the strangest thing,
Mhm.
just to be in Walmart. But anyway, 6 weeks later, I'm in the woods, and it just kind of put me back together. That's the best way I can put it. It was something I needed. And I've been through that with other experiences in my life too. I just
I've noticed
needed
it doesn't even have to be fishing. Like you said, it wasn't about the fishing. Like,
No.
it wasn't about the numbers that you caught. Like, and not, like in this season of life, like even just our shooting of films has been like that. Like I talk about it with my wife regularly. Like, yeah, I'm not getting to fish all that often right now. And especially, we know with hunting season and everything open as well right now, like I'm not doing that a lot, but I am on the river a decent amount. And, and usually that's holding a camera and not a fly rod. And it does something very similar in me, even just getting to be out there, like just capturing it. Like I don't have to be fishing. It's doing something very similar in me as fishing does, you know?
You're also fulfilling that creative urge
Yeah, for sure.
that you have in you. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And that's something that all of us who feel that, you got to fill it up.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah. Like I'm noticing actually like focusing on, all right, what's gonna get a fish into the net. Like I'm noticing all the other things that I love about it out there, you know, more than I would even if I were trying to fish. And I let you worry about getting fish into the net. So it can make fun of you when it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely any type of hobby, man. I think, Dom, you alluded to it at some point within the podcast about people and how you got to care for something. And like these outdoor sports, they're almost, you go through high school and a lot of people play organized sports, and then let's face it, 99.5% of folks phase out of that.
Sure.
And something when it comes to the outdoors and these stories we're telling tonight, whether it's hunting or fishing or hiking or skiing or rock climbing, it's like so important, I think, in this day and age to have something that you care about, like we care about, fishing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a healthy thing to have in life because it does heal you at certain times or gives you a break and I talk to people that don't have anything like that, and I often wonder, what do you do to?
Great point.
How do you make it through?
Yeah, how do you get out? How do you vent? And so I'm thankful, and I hope, my kids are young, right? I got a 2-year-old and one on the way. If there's one thing that I can pass down that I'm grateful that my dad did, it's the outdoor sports, or and I say outdoor sports, it's the hunting and the fishing. I'm grateful for that, and I will be, until I die, and hopefully I can pass that down to my kids.
Yeah. Just being outdoors. I mean, Aiden and I, he's my youngest, we were out splitting logs today. I thought that was good. He's not as into fishing as Joey is, but we were splitting logs for a little while. Cool.
Sure. Yep.
You got to get out there.
Yep.
And whatever it is that brings you out there, and maybe someday Aiden will need that. There really is nothing like being outside. And I don't think it's just for us. I think just human beings could just kind of need that sometimes.
100%. Just like sports, I think, have their own unique learning opportunities and life lessons. I think the outdoors and hunting and fishing contain and provide a kid with lessons, learning, the need to improvise, danger, adventure, a lot of things you just can't get anywhere else. And every time this topic comes up, I think I say the same thing, but I just become increasingly appalled. I see a lot of kids in my clinic, and I walk into so many rooms to a kid on a screen who doesn't look up when I walk in the room, doesn't look up as I talk to him, barely responds to questions. The parent sits there sort of apologetically, but doing nothing about it.
Right.
And I just think man, without these kids having experiences that are real, they just sort of have sunk into a lot of times a kind of a virtual reality that they have trouble separating from. And, I know a lot's written about it. I know there's a lot smarter people that have that stuff figured out, but I can't help but wish that kids had more opportunity to experience the outdoors. And yet it seems like something that's becoming less and less common.
That's one thing I really appreciated about the fly fishing program at Penn State. Back in the 1940s when George Harvey put that program together, is unlike anything else in the country. No collegiate fly fishing program existed, but his idea was that, we have these young people who enter academia, and we teach them how to succeed when they get out, and we put them through all these stresses of classes, and we put them out in the real world afterwards, and we put them through the stresses of career, and we don't give them a way to relieve stress or give them a way to enjoy life outside of whatever training they just went through to earn a degree. So the program was built off of that reason, to give somebody a passion they could have for the rest of their life, because the idea was that you could go play organized sports, but maybe your knees get busted up where you can't play soccer when you're 60 years old, but hey, you could go down to a trout stream and still enjoy it.
That's seriously, that was his intention, you're saying?
Yeah, it's the intention, and it still is today.
That's great.
If you read the course description, that's how it exists.
That's how it started too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. As a Pitt alum, I almost kind of like that. One thing
Dude, I didn't know you were
State.
Pitt. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm Pitt.
We could do an episode of why Pitt sucks.
Spit.
We only have to do one episode about why Penn State sucks.
Hey, now.
You're like 3 against 1 and two
That ain't
locals
right.
that might have.
I don't think there's a pit fly fishing program. I'm not
No,
sure about
there's only-
that, but yeah,
Yeah, there's a club now.
They
Is there a club?
fish. They fish
Yep.
with bait and try to catch creek chubs.
I'm probably down on the Mon fishing
Sounds
for
right.
bodies.
Oh, mercy.
Better watch it. Oh, that I'm down there tailgating. I better not wear my Troutbitten hat, Dom, on Sunday.
That's right. That's right. All right, there it is. This is what we mean by a life on the water. It's a fly fishing life that brings us closer to each other, to our friends and family with these shared river experiences. And it brings us back to the outdoors, too. The act of fishing puts us in the environment. We are part of it in a way that not many other pursuits can match. I've written articles about staying in the fly fishing game for a lifetime. And really, it's these kinds of memories, these relationships that renew the experience for us and keep us going. It's a life shared that imprints the strongest. Whether that's telling stories about a big fish caught at the upper bend, or it's a tailgate beer with a friend, trying to figure out why the rising trout would not eat a rusty spinner at the tail out. This is a life on the water. So let me thank each of these guys, Josh, Trevor, Matt, Austin, and Bill, not just for being part of this podcast, but for their friendship over the years. Because these connections and these memories are the heart of Troutbitten. All right, Trevor, will you read us out?
Yeah. Remember, the Troutbitten Project is a free resource for all anglers. The Troutbitten website hosts over 900 articles with endless stories, commentaries, tactics, tips, and more. Find what you like through the top menu and through the search page. Navigate by way of the categories and tags, too. Be sure to find the Troutbitten YouTube channel, currently featuring the Troutbitten Tips series in collaboration with Wilds Media. These are short, useful, and unique tips for your fly fishing life. Thank you for listening to the Troutbitten Podcast. Please give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and leave a comment, because that really helps. Until next time, friends, fish hard, enjoy the day, and find your life on the water.
I never let Sloop row again, and he lives here now.
That's not what you say.
Hey, buddy.
So Bill puts it down his pants.
Wild or stocked?
Keep it straight or you're rolling.
It's gnarly.
I bought some 8X this weekend. I'm going to see if I can.
Oh, rub with love.
Hey, now.
I feel left out.
Hey, now.
Sometimes you put your time in.
Yeah.